Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Steins Gate 0. In the last episode, Mayuri, Rintaro and friends held a rather elaborate surprise party for Suzuha, who, initially shocked at first, eventually relented and came to enjoy the celebration that was planned especially for her. The festivities were going well, and then something happened. Something that shouldn't have happened, since the Phonewave TBA no longer technically exists. And yet, unfortunately, sad to say, it has. Reading Steiner has activated, which means only one thing. The worldline has shifted to something completely different. Now, in the past, the shifting of worldlines occurred as a result of a D-mail. Unfortunately, that only applies to the Phonewave TBA, and as I just mentioned, it no longer exists. But I do have a troubling theory. We're not the only ones with a time machine anymore. Although having said that, well, now that I think about it, in the timeline that Suzuha came from in 2036 on the Beta Worldline, she said that World War III had been fought over time machines. Could it be that one of the nations involved has somehow changed the worldline? Or is something even more ominous afoot? Regardless, Rintaro Okabe is no longer in the worldline that he was just in. Who was it? Who would change the worldline? Who indeed? That is the answer to which that is the question we desperately need answered, and unfortunately I don't think that cancelling a D-mail is going to shift us back to the worldline that we came from. Not this time. I didn't do anything. I hadn't interfered with the world, but someone else has. So why was the world doing this to me? 'Cause someone else is messing with time. It was a dark and stormy night. And reading Steiner is still in effect. Everything's completely disorientating. I opened my eyes. Things had already taken on different colors. The world kept wavering until once again it became fixed to a single point in time. I wasn't looking at a warm, cheerful party in the lab anymore. I was outside. It was raining, and everything is cold and grey. The rain was falling on my face in drops so large that it hurt. It was a midwinter rain. It was freezing cold, and I could feel it sapping the strength from my body. My view stopped twisting. And the grey is, offset by an ominously red sky. Maybe something is burning in the background. I was staring at the broad back of a man I didn't know. I could hear the sound of many boots stamping through the mud, mingling with falling rain. We appear to be in a alleyway of sorts, and there are cars, smashed cars, and rain everywhere. The stench was terrible. The smell of sewage was so strong it hurt to breathe, and it was mixed in with the awful smell of burning rubber and plastic. Where was I? What was I doing right now? Things around me had changed so much. I tried to understand the situation I was in, but my brain was having an awful time keeping up. Well, as Rintaro said, we're definitely not alone. There's no sign of Mayuri and the others. When I stopped, a rough hand patted me on the shoulder, encouragingly. I looked around to see a man my age, with a strong and powerful face. It was a face I'd never seen. I didn't know him. Probably. The man was wearing the camo outfit and equipment I'd often seen the self-defense force wear on the news. He was carrying an assault rifle on his shoulder. I don't mean to yawn during my Let's Play videos, but sometimes I don't get to the microphone quickly enough. There were 7 or 8 people around me, all dressed the same. The Japanese self-defense force, huh? And this music sounds pretty intense. Something is going on. They surrounded me in a circular formation. I walked forward silently, as I kept a careful eye on the area around them. We truly find ourselves in a strange place, Rintaro. And then I realized I was wearing the same camo uniform they were. Well, that's certainly something different. I touched my bicep to check, but there was no muscle. It was flabby and weak. Unlike the others, I wasn't carrying any weapons. Then what was going on here? Was the SDF here to protect Rintaro? It felt like these 7 or 8 tough-looking SDF guys were all guarding me. It certainly seems to be the case. Since when was I that important? Still confused, I dragged myself onwards, and the rain keeps pouring down. Where was I anyway? Probably the better question at this point is, when are we? It was a long path filled with dark brown mud. The walls formed a tall silhouette to the left and right. The path was filled with garbage and concrete rubble, and sometimes we had to force our way past it. I looked up past the high walls. Despite the rain, the moon in the night sky was strangely red and a little too bright. It was thanks to the moon that we were able to walk down a path like this without flashlights. Sound. I heard a sound. It was the sound of water. I looked over and saw a hole opened in one of the walls. Filthy water was pouring out. The water formed dozens of little rivers that blocked our path. So what that was it? This was the bottom of a river that had dried up. But it looked like high walls were the river dikes. So this isn't an alleyway at all. I turned towards the man who had spoken with me a bit ago, and yelled so that my voice could be heard over the rain. Yeah. We're on the move. And it seems like the SDF definitely don't want us being spotted by anyone. So apparently we're on our way to a garrison of sorts, being escorted by the SDF. But his words cut off there, and I can hear the sound of a helicopter in the background. Everyone seemed more tense than ever. One of them grabbed me and pushed me towards the side of the riverbed. Everyone put their backs against the wall and held their breath. I could hear the sound of a helicopter's rotors in the distance. No, more than just one. That's not good at all. They were getting closer. I had no idea what was going on, but I could feel my heart start to beat faster. Probably a good idea to follow his advice. Past several meters of rubble lay an overturned car. It must have fallen into the riverbed after the water had disappeared. The entire body was bent inward and the roof was completely crushed. But who could possibly be hunting for us? I lay down in the stinking mud and slid into the shadow of the overturned car. At the same time, the SDF soldiers were issuing each other orders, as if this was something that they had planned for already. Certainly seems that way given the situation. Two of them stayed by my side and everyone else ran back the way we'd come. They all climbed crevices and outcroppings on the wall, then disappeared over the edge of the dike and out of my view. Shortly after, those were gunshots, and not just a single shot from a handgun or anything like that. This was the sound of war. I could hear the helicopters getting further away, drawn by the gunfire. So that must be the SDF forces providing a distraction. And this worldline was Japan at war? The Third World War. I remembered Suzuha's words. I happened to look inside the crushed car. I could see the corpses of a man, a woman, and a small child hanging upside down, still attached to their seatbelts. Something tells me though that this is not 2036. This is probably still before that time. They were all covered in dry black blood. They looked like mannequins at a bad haunted house. Well, Suzuha did say that the World War III was a gruesome experience, and now we're seeing it firsthand. And then I realized I'd been so focused on moving forward that I hadn't noticed what they were, but I'd seen similar mannequins sunk into the mud. I could see their arms, the bones and ragged muscle exposed to the air, reaching up to the sky as if seeking salvation. Those aren't mannequins. Those are people. I put my hand over my mouth to stifle a scream. Those weren't mannequins. Gotta move. So I have to find another escape route, it seems. He pulled me up. My knees were shaking from shock and exhaustion. Wait a minute. Soviet helicopters. The Soviet Union the Union of Soviet Socialistic Republics, created in 1922. After the end of World War II, it began a long Cold War with America, but the Cold War ended in 1991. It consisted of Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Moldova, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. But the Soviet Union no longer exists. It's the Russian Federation. My mind was dulled from the terror, but it seemed like there was something off about what he just said. So more than these SDF soldiers have been fighting to protect Rintaro Okabe. But given Suzuha's explanation of World War III, I'm starting to understand. World War III is currently being fought by three nations: the United States of America, the Russian Federation, or weirdly enough in this world line, the Soviet Union of all things, and the European Union. So apparently, the SDF have been ordered to protect Rintaro Okabe, but they haven't been informed about why. So they don't know about the time machine, they're just here to guard Rintaro. A helicopter passed over the riverbed. The bright searchlight passed us by for a moment, but thankfully the shadow of the dike hit us. But the Soviet Union is still around. I wonder, is this still 2010? Or have we somehow gone to... But this looks too modern to be the 80s or 90s. The young SDF soldier, whose name I didn't even know, pulled me inside one of the holes in the concrete. When I looked closely, I could see that it was the entrance to a sewer. It was just big enough for a single person to pass through. Struggling against the flow of water that came up to my knees, I pressed on through the darkness. Well, seems like we're safe for now. My sense of smell had already gone numb, so I didn't have to worry about the stench of the sewage. Once inside, we came to several branching paths. The SDF soldiers seemed to know which one would lead where, and they marched on without hesitation. And then we came out of the sewer and back into a riverbed. It was dried up, just like the ones we'd been through. I didn't know if it was the same river or another one, and the two soldiers didn't tell me. Either way, I was finally glad to be out of the foul-smelling darkness, and I tried to take a deep breath and fill my lungs with fresh air. Also, the sounds of silence means that the helicopters are currently far away. But... halfway through, I realized that the riverbed smelled even worse than the sewer. I took an involuntary step back, and then another. The sight in front of me was just that terrible. What was once a riverbed was now filled with bodies. Some of them had been burned totally black, so it was impossible to tell how much death lay before me. And in the distance, I could see what looked like bonfires. They were burning despite the rain. The fires were consuming the mountains of flesh that once were human bodies. We'll certainly do our best. Rintaro is still capable of moving, fortunately. The SDF soldier spoke to me, and then I came back to my senses. If it weren't for these two, I wouldn't have been able to stay sane. We ran through the riverbed, one of them in front of me, the other behind. I could hear the constant drone of the helicopters above me. Sometimes the searchlights got very close, so they're still looking for us. Each time they did, I hid in the piles of bodies until they passed. I'd seen this many times before as I'd wandered through the world lines. Of course, that was a very different experience. I'd seen death of both Kurisu Makase and Mayuri Shina. I'd seen the moments when people had died. But the scale of this tragedy is too vast for Rintaro Okabe to take in. But at the same time, I'd never experienced what happened to a dead person after they were left out for a long time. More than fear, more than sorrow, the thing that hit me first was the smell of death. The rotting stench ate away at my body, not my soul. My whole body was rejecting it. It made me feel sick. Thinking that way meant trampling on the dignity of the dead, but I couldn't help it. The Valley of Hinnom. I remembered that phrase from the lunatic who tried to kill us. That was what that strange attacker said that night when they came after Dr. Liskinen, Maho and me. Indeed he did. And yet our mystery assailant was the very man who was heckling Maho at the Amadeus seminar. A man who Rintaro decided to challenge on the behalf of both Maho and the late Kurisu Makase. That valley was the origin of the word Giena, meaning hell. It was said that flames burned there every night, scorching the heavens themselves. Those who had died merciless deaths with anger or misery in their hearts were flung into the flames, their souls becoming black smoke that rained hatred down on the land. What I stared at now was Giena. The two soldiers led me to a half-collapsed subway tunnel, and there appear to be a couple of vehicles. They don't quite look like... they might be APCs, armoured personnel carriers. The lights were all off because there was no electricity, but there were 3 armoured cars in camo colours with their headlights on to illuminate the way. There were 4-wheel drive, off-road vehicles covered in thick chunks of armour, but I didn't see any real weapons.
ここから地下鉄内を通って埼玉へ抜けられます。入間基地はまだ無事と聞いています。そこまで行けば関東を脱出できるはずです。
So we're heading to Uruma Base. One of the Air Self-Defense Force's largest bases, located between Uruma and Sayama cities in Saitama Prefecture. It's home to 18 units and around 4,300 personnel, and is also the location of the Air Defense Command Headquarters Flight Group. So that's where they're taking us, it seems.
話は向こうで聞いてください。とにかく急いで。
So apparently they want us to escape Kanto, and if need be, we'll probably have to get out of Japan altogether. There were a lot of things I wanted to ask, but even as we spoke, I heard what sounded like gunshots outside of the tunnels. The men forced me into the back seat of one of the cars.
それではご無事を祈っております。
あなた方は
Looks like we're being escorted by a
自分たち
different
には
group
別の
this
任務が
time.
ありますので。では
And the people who escorted us thus far are heading to a different objective. The two soldiers who brought me here saluted, then turned around and left the station. I felt like I was never going to see them again. And even if we get out of this area, there's no guarantee that we might be able to get back to the previous world line. The door of the armored car slammed shut with a heavy thud. The car's crew were SDF soldiers, just a little older than me. Of course, we can worry about shifting world lines later. We have more immediate concerns to deal with. The diesel engine kicked to life, and the car raced down a tunnel that had been originally designed for trains. Of course, it wasn't a pleasant ride at all, but I didn't have any choice. There was no way I could tell them that I wanted to go to Akihabara. I had no way to alter the world line. I had to survive in this hellish world. And to survive, I needed to do what they said. My wants didn't matter at all. I wasn't even allowed to express them. I just did as they told me and ran. It was all I could do. But I had no idea that it would take an entire month. Wow. That's the longest that we've been at, the longest we've been in any world line. But it appears we're looking at an @channel forum. Anonymous at Security Council, the stories so far. The USSR starts experimenting with the time machine and America goes apeshit. Give me that time machine, USSR, but I refuse. I don't think that the USSR ever used leet speak, although this is the internet hard at work. Eastern powers and Soviets get cocky. How does it feel to be you right now, huh? How's it feel? This brings us to the end of your regularly scheduled Cold War. US, I'ma bomb you from Japan, USSR. They will invade Japan. Us, oh shit, right now. It's, this was posted in 2010, so it could very well still be 2010 at the moment. USSR is kicking ass. Hokkaido and Northeast Japan are screwed. Are they coming for Central Japan now? People of Nagoya, GTFO. Amateurs who know nothing about strategy need to SDFU. The SDF may look like they're retreating, but they've actually got a defense line at Mount Fuji. They're about to start a counterattack. The Mount Fuji line. Who the hell is dumb enough to believe Japanese Imperial High Command? Better not start hearing calls for kamikaze pilots soon. Shut up, noob. Idiots like you are the real threat to Japan. What happened to the collective right of self-defense? America's only interested in protecting Okinawa. So what the hell is the SDF getting sent off to Siberia? How are they supposed to protect the country? And I'm actually not going to read the rest of this. If you want to, you can pause the video long enough to actually read everything that's going on. But yeah, things are looking a bit crazy here on that channel. The reason it took a month to get to Okinawa was that we were losing the war. And we got a couple of tips to look at. W, a short version of the Japanese word for laughter, warai. Supposedly it was first used in a non-Japanese online game. By adding W to the end of a sentence or placing it in the middle, you can indicate that you can find the situation humorous. On anonymous internet message boards, adding more W's such as www can be used to increase the amount of laughter, or to indicate that you're mocking the opponent. Examples of sentences including W are whoa, okay, and I'm getting excited. W's used in this way is sometimes called making grass grow because of the way they look. And okay is net slang that means okay, although that okay, that's basically the same in real slang. Supposedly the plan had been to ferry me out by plane to Okinawa once I'd arrived at Iruma base. But the constant bombing had slowed us down, so they gave up on the plane and decided I would escape to Kyushu by ground. There was more than one attack by Soviet spies and assault teams. Some of the SDF soldiers protecting me died. But when I got to Sasebo, I was able to escape on a maritime SDF escort ship and managed to escape to Okinawa. Why were they doing all this for me? No matter how many times I asked, no one would answer. Maybe we might finally get some answers at our destination. Okinawa in winter was covered in thick clouds. Come to think of it, I hadn't seen a real break in the clouds for the whole month. I was thinking about that when I was loaded into a van with dark tinted windows that had come to pick me up from the port. Inside the car was not only the driver, but a middle-aged man sitting in the passenger seat. Both of them are dressed in SDF uniforms, like everyone else, and we're currently on the open road, which means that if the Soviet helicopters decide to pay us a visit, we're basically sitting ducks. He was very short, perhaps only around 150 centimeters tall, but he had the air of a military veteran, and even though he was fully dressed, I could tell he was extremely muscular. And it would stand to reason that they would know who we are. Apparently this man here is Shimoyama, the Ministry of Defense. One of Japan's central ministries. It manages and operates the self-defense forces. In 2007 it changed its name from the Defense Agency to the Ministry of Defense. Apparently Shioyama is with the Intelligence Security Command. So we're making our way to the Okinawa Defense Bureau in Kadena. The Okinawa Defense Bureau. Okinawa Defense Bureau, sorry. Not Okina. Even though you could abridge it to that. One of the 8 local defense bureaus in Japan. It is the center of Japan's Ministry of Defense in Okinawa. Hopefully we can meet up with the others if they're still safe.
Hi.
But we don't even know if they're where they are or even if they're alive in this world line. I'd heard that Tokyo had been destroyed. Indeed, that rather graven image there seems to confirm that sentiment. There's certainly a wave of hellfire blazing through the cityscape. The major functions of the Japanese government were now headquartered out of the Okinawa Defense Bureau to allow for better cooperation with the American forces stationed nearby. So the SDF is working with the US on this one, it seems. That's what Shimoyama explained to me. In other words, the place I was heading was the core of Japan's defenses. Once I arrived, would I understand why it was so important to all these soldiers who were willing to die to protect me? Hopefully, is the answer that I would give. The car stopped in Naha Airport for a while. An airport in Naha, Okinawa. It is the hub airport of the Okinawa area. The airport is also home to the Air Self-Defense Force's Naha Air Base. As of 2009, it was the 6th busiest airport in Japan, as measured by the number of arriving travelers. And is our brief destination. And then I saw a surprising pair get aboard. So apparently we're getting a couple of passengers along with us. And it's Yuki and Fubuki. Indeed, I keep forgetting that Fubuki's full name is Katsumi Nakase. I kept forgetting her actual last name. But I'll keep calling her Fubuki for the sake of that, even though her real name is... yeah, I'll just keep calling her Fubuki. I wasn't expecting to see them there. And come to think of it, before the worldline shifted, we definitely saw Fubuki collapsing around the same time as us. So what was that all about? Of course, we can't ask her about that in this situation, but they were the first people I knew who I'd met since coming to this worldline. That alone was almost enough to make me cry. But still, I couldn't just sit there and be happy. That's good to hear. Yuki nodded, as if trying to make me feel better. I take it she's with another escort group then. So, Mayuri, Ferris, Ruka, and Kaide are all alive and well. And it appears we're all heading to the same destination, the Defense Bureau. But that begs an even more important question. We're all here, or at least we're all going to be here, in this worldline. But, what does that mean for, what about Maho and Liskanen? Did they end up getting shifted to this worldline? So, the SDF are trying to, have some sort of misdirection just to keep any spotters away from us. Indeed, at least everyone's alive in this world line. Since Suzuha and Daru weren't mentioned, I was going to ask about them, but that come to think of it, yeah, those two as well. Shimoyama cut me off when the car started moving.
沖縄防衛局には君たちのご家族もいずれ到着する予定だ。すでに我々の方で保護はしている。
So the families of everyone involved are currently under the protection of the Self-Defense Force.
本当ですか？よかった。
別行動になったお友達の皆さんもすぐ後ろの車に乗っている。離れ離れになるわけではないから安心していい。
So everyone's still together, it seems. I took a quick look and saw another identical van a little behind us. So Mayuri and the others were there.
じゃあ後でまた会えるんですね。
もちろんだ。
Well, that's good to hear, Shimoyama. Yuki let out a sigh of relief. But we can't rest just yet. But then I started to wonder about something else. Why would we split into different cars? This van could hold at least another 3 people. If we squeezed tight, it could easily hold everyone. Or was there some reason they put me, Yuki, and Fubuki into the same car? Probably a military tactic, I'd say, Rintaro. The car drove alongside the Okinawa monorail for a while, and then went south down a wide bypass. Getting quite a few tips in this episode. Okinawa monorail, the only railway operating in Okinawa as of 2011. It runs approximately 13 kilometers between Naha Airport and Shuri Castle, with a 30-minute transit time and 15 stations along the way.
暗いな。
No sign of any enemy helicopters.
何です？
いや、こんなに店が並んでるのに、どこも真っ暗だから。
They've all been abandoned. There were lots of franchise restaurants, big supermarkets, cafeterias for tourists, and rent-a-car places all jammed together along the side of the road. But all of them were dead silent, and the lights turned off. Barely any of the street lights were turned on, and the only cars were Japanese and US military vehicles. I didn't see anyone out walking. Probably for the best.
午後5時以降の外出禁止令が出ているんだ。
So there's a military
沖縄
curfew.
なら安全とは言ってもね、戦時下なんだよ。以前のようにはいかない。早く戦争など終わって元に戻ってほしいものだ。
I think Rintaro would agree wholeheartedly with you. Wartime, huh?
なあ岡部君、君の知っている沖縄は夜遅くまでもっと明るくて楽しい場所だったろ？
An odd topic of conversation
どう
there.
でしょう。俺は沖縄は初めてなので。
No, we've often hung out at
それはも
Akihabara.
ったいないな。なら次は楽しい旅行で来られることを祈っているよ。ここは本当にいい島だ。
The car headed up from the bypass over a land bridge and then to another road. We quickly came to a long
実は
tunnel.
3人に防衛局に着く前に少しだけ質問をしたくてな。それでこうして同乗してもらった。
Ah, so that's why we got separated. Wanted to interrogate us first. Or at the very least ask us some questions. My guess was right. That meant that there was something he wanted to ask just the 3 of us. But why us 3? I wasn't particularly close to Yuki or Fubuki. I'd only even started talking to them a few months ago. And then I shook my head. That was before the worldline changed. Maybe things were different in this worldline. They could very well be. And whatever information Shimoyama might give, however classified, might actually help us get a bearing on our current situation. I had no idea what my relationship was to anyone in this worldline. And yet, in the same way as the Alpha and Beta worldlines, we're still together. Since the SDF have been treating me so well, I didn't want to make Shimoyama suspicious. I decided it would be best to leave most of the talking to Yuki and Fubuki.
天音ゆきさん。
And she's the first one who's being interrogated. Shimoyama spoke to Yuki first. Yuki went stiff when her name was called. I could feel it even sitting next to her.
君は橋田至君とその妹さんがどこにいるか知らないだろうか。
So they're looking for Daru and Suzuha. Little sister. She's not his little sister actually, but we can't really mention that. That would mean that even in this world line, Suzuha had come from the future and gotten to know Yuki and the others while pretending to be Daru's sister. Why would Suzuha to pretend to be her own sister? That doesn't make any sense. What were you thinking, localization team? And the SDF evidently didn't know where Daru and Suzuha were. Come to think of it, Suzuha did mention that when it was discovered that Daru was constructing a time machine, the two of them were basically believed to be a rebel organization.
私は
Maybe they're still working on the time machine in this world line. Yuki fell silent and glanced over to me, as if expecting help. Unfortunately, we don't know where they are either. Indeed. I don't even have any memories of this world line, so I had no way of answering. That is the curse of reading Steiner. But Yuki's attitude bothered me. It was as if she knew where they were and was deliberately hiding it, and that I was supposed to be hiding it too. I could figure that out. I'm sure Shimayama could as well. A strange tension filled the car. Yuki was trying to hide it. From whom? The SDF? Or from someone else?
知らないかな
Shimayama turned around from the front passenger seat and asked again.
すみません
But Yuki is adamant. Yuki bowed her head in
でも
apology.
君は橋田君とかなり親しいお付き合いをしているんだよね。恋人に何の連絡もないというのは。
携帯電話なんてもう使い物になってないじゃないですか。
Well, that's fantastic. That's just great. No cell phones. You know what that means, adventurers? We couldn't send a D-mail even if we wanted to. This just keeps getting better and better. Yeah, that's true, but communication isn't really the issue here, Shimayama.
本当に何も。
妹さんからも
はい。
And Yuki is actually surprisingly holding steadfast against Shimayama's interrogation.
時に岡部君は橋田君と何か研究をしていたらしいね。
So the Japanese military and the Japanese government are interested in the development of time machines. I wasn't sure how to react when the conversation suddenly turned towards me. Researching? Researching what? If I panic, I'll make them
どんな研
suspicious.
究をしていたんだね。
Yeah. I would just have to give him the most harmless answers I could. Fortunately, we don't know anything. But,
研究というよりなんていうかちょっとした発明のアイデアというか
yeah, we're talking about the, future
発
gadgets
明
that
竹とんぼ
were,
に CCD カメラをつけて空撮ができないかとか
that would be, one of the many, that would be the bamboo helicopter. A CCD camera, which stands for Charged Coupled Device. Never knew that before. A camera that uses semiconductors. In normal parlance, the term refers to any extremely small camera. Although I don't know how
掃除機の
Shimayama
ドライヤ
will
ー代わ
buy
りに
this
してみる
excuse.
とか
ほう、なかなか面白いね。それじゃ何かとんでもないものを作っていて、それを知られないために我々から逃げたというわけではないんだね。
Doubt that would actually be the case given the fact that we were being protected by the SDF in the first place.
逃げた？
Damn, I responded. That was a mistake. But did that mean that Daru and Suzuha were hiding from the SDF amid all this chaos? The SDF had risked their lives to protect me over the past month. Shouldn't I be asking them for help? I got even more confused.
知らないのならいいんだ。橋田君たちのことは保留にしておこう。
Looks like Shinoyama's putting that topic on the back burner for the time being, which is more than a relief. Somebody, please tell me what the right answer is. How am I supposed to respond here?
中瀬克美さん、君には別に聞きたいことがあるんだ。
Apparently Shinoyama wants to ask Fubuki something.
私
This time it was Fubuki's turn to jump up in her
いやい
seat.
や、そんなに緊張しなくていい。大したことじゃない。
Also, Shimoyama said, but Fubuki was clearly starting to get scared. Her reaction was strange. It was too strong. Maybe the self-defense forces simply weren't protecting us. For one thing, there was no way normal civilians like us merited such important treatment. But then what were they after? No, I could guess. The time machine. Well, it appears that Japan wants the same thing that the Russians, Americans, and Europeans want, the time travel technology, which is ultimately what led to this devastation and tragedy in the first place. This war started with Russia's time machine experiments, courtesy of Dr. Nakabashi. I learned from some of the soldiers that even in this world line he'd sought asylum in Russia. Thank you so much, Soichi Makase. And Suzuha was a time traveler from the year 2036. If she were here in this era, then that would meant it was Daru who made the time machine that brought her here, so that hasn't changed. If you had a time machine, you could change the outcome of this war. It would make sense if that's what the Japanese government thought, and if that was why they were trying to capture Daru, Suzuha, and their friends. Of course, Rintaro knows better than everyone that, once again, that worldline convergence is a cruel mischief, and the butterfly effect is no friend either. Whatever you change will have unintended consequences. Even the smallest change can lead to a completely different outcome, one that you cannot predict. Once I realized that, the whole situation started to feel terrifying to me. Was this car really headed towards the Okinawa Defense Bureau? And if it was, were they really going to keep us safe there?
先週、中瀬さんに受けてもらった健康診断なんだが。
Apparently Fubuki went through a physical examination.
何か悪いところでも見つかったんですか？
いや、東京で怪我をした傷も治りかけているし、体調には問題はない。ただ、ストレスがひどいようだね。
I supposed anyone would be under a lot of stress given the situations.
まあ無理もない。あれだけひどい空襲をくぐり抜けてきたんだ。今やほとんどの民間人に PTSD があると言ってもいい。
Post-traumatic stress disorder. From the 4th edition of the DSM-4, the American Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, published 1994. caused by severe shock from experiencing an accident, disaster, crime, or seriously traumatic event. This mental disorder causes any number of stress-related issues. Symptoms include psychological instability, insomnia, confusion, memory trouble, and other problems that last for over a month.
ただ君の場合、他の人とは少し違うようだ。随分とリアルな夢を見たりするとか。
Realistic dreams.
ひどい時には白チュームというのかな。現実と夢の区別がつかなくなることもあると聞いた。
Wait a minute. If I recall, Fubuki collapsed at the same time that Rintaro did, before the worldline shifted, or as the worldline was shifting. And unbeknownst to Rintaro, Fubuki has had troubling visions of the many deaths of Mayuri Shino on the Alpha World lines.
だからそれが PTSD ってことじゃないんですか？
Sad to say, Yuki, no. Fubuki was too scared to speak, so Yuki interrupted curtly. It was rare to see Yuki act like this. If nothing else, I'd never seen it before. But it was plain now. Yuki didn't trust Sumayama. In fact, she considered him an enemy.
いや、それが実に奇妙な話なんだが。
Shimayama paused for a moment for effect and rubbed his chin.
中瀬さんと非常によく似た白チュームを見る人たちがいる。しかも一人や二人じゃない。
Indeed, we heard a television broadcast saying that people were having similar experiences, but it was being attributed to some form of encephalitis or something like that. But I'm wondering if that's just a
も
cover
ちろん程度
story.
の差はあるが、国内だけでもすでに十数名ほど見つかっている。
So, but there have been more people than Rintaro and Fubuki who've been
どうやら
affected by
海外
this
にもいるよう
phenomenon.
だ。まあ、西側諸国の情報しかないがね。
And apparently it's happening outside of Japan
そんなの
too.
ただの偶然じゃん。
I would say that this is too big of a coincidence, Rintaro. Fubuki was incredibly frightened, so I spoke in her place.
空心を知っているだろう。
No, I have not, but I believe I'm about to find out. Fictional. Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. From 2000 to 2008, he was the second president of Russia. After 2008, he became its prime minister, a former KB agent. I know who Putin is now. It's a pun. It's a pun on Vladimir Putin. Ha ha. Very funny, Steins Gate Zero. Suddenly, Shimoyama turned his gaze towards me and asked me a question.
プーシン
Yeah, I've seen him on television. What of
ソ
it?
連の書記長ですよね。
Although in this world line, he's Soviet General Secretary. I almost said the president of Russia, but managed to stop myself because in our world line, the Soviet Union no longer exists. It's the Russian Federation. But in this world line, the Soviet Union still exists, it seems. Putin's title is General Secretary, not President. I heard that during my time in Iruma.
そう。だが、中瀬さんは興味深いことに、プーチンがロシアの大統領だと答えたとか。
Oh dear. I can see where Shimoyama is going with this. Conflicting world lines.
すみません。なんか寝ぼけてたんです。それに私、勉強とか全然ダメで。
No, it's not your fault, Fubuki, because you're not technically wrong in this
いや、そう
situation.
じゃない。白チュームを見る人たちの特徴の一つなんだ。皆一様にそう口にする。プーチン大統領とね。
That's because he is the president of Russia and the other world lines. And those people are not having dreams, but memories
ゴリバチョ
and
フやレ
different
リツィンのことも
experiences.
大統領と呼ぶものばかりだ。
Gorbachev and Yeltsin, basically changes to the names Gorbachev and Boris Yeltsin. Boris Nikolaevich Yeltsin, a former USSR politician. After the fall of the Soviet Union, he became the first president of the Russian Federation as well as its prime minister. Died in 2007. I didn't know that. Mikhail Sergeyevich Gorbachev, General Secretary of the Soviet Communist Party. He was the last leader of the USSR. He executed the Perestroika program or plan and brought the Cold War to an end.
そのおかげで研究者たちは陰で大統領病とか呼んでるそうだが、センスのないネーミングだな。
Almost sounds as bad as Phonewave TBA. Who said that? No way. Is he talking about reading Steiner? There was a strong chance that people like me had this power, even if it's not as acutely. I would say not. I would actually say that it's similar but not quite the same as reading Steiner. I'd never found out for sure, but what Ferris had said in the Alpha World line certainly suggested it. There are memories reaching over from different world lines, but they're conflicting with the memories of those people in these current world lines. But although this current phenomenon may actually be reading Steiner, because if those people don't have any memories of the events of the current world line, then I would certainly say yes, that is very much reading Steiner. So it's certainly possible that Shimayama's waking dreams were actually the effects of reading Steiner, if they were all aware of the world line shift a month ago just like me. If Fubuki had the same memories of the other world line that I had, it would make perfect sense that she'd call Putin a president.
Gorbachev? Yeltsin?
But Yuki has never heard of Gorbachev or
知らない
Yeltsin
のかね。
or
世界史の
Yeltsin.
授業でやっただろ。
私、高校時代からずっと理系だったもので。
So she never studied world history.
常識だと思っていたが、今の若い子は知らないのか。最近の学生がここまで不勉強とはね。
Well, people know who their names were. They don't necessarily know about the people
岡
themselves.
部君は知っているだろう。ゴリバチョフやレリツィンくらい。
Only vaguely.
ええ、まあ
Looks like Shimayama's trying to put us in
ベ
a
ルリ
tight
ンの壁の
spot.
崩壊やペレストロイカも。
So the fall of the Berlin Wall still happened. Perestroika, Russian for restructuring, a policy of economic revolution via the introduction of market-oriented economics that was implemented in 1985 by the Soviet Union. Originally, it was an attempt to reboot a stalled socialist economy, but it led to the end of the Communist Party's one-party dominance and the collapse of the USSR. The Berlin Wall. After World War II, the capital of Germany, Berlin, was divided into two sides. The eastern side was controlled by the Soviet Union and the western side by America, England, and France. Later, Germany would split into West and East Germany. The portion in Berlin in East Germany remained its capital, but West Berlin remained occupied by the Allied powers while being cut off from the rest of West Germany, which lay approximately 100 miles to the west. In 1961, East Germany built a wall around the city in response to continuing attempts by its citizens to seek asylum in West Berlin. This was the Berlin Wall. Until its destruction in 1989, it was a symbol of the divide between East and West Germany. Additionally, West Berlin was never officially West German territory. They simply operated as a stand-in for foreign affairs and currency administrations. People still have pieces of the actual Berlin Wall as mementos and trophies of sorts.
はい。それも教科書で。
The second after those words were out of my mouth, an alarm went off in my mind. Oh dear. We made a mistake. If the Soviet Union is still around, then it stands to reason that the Berlin Wall is still standing in this world line. We fell for your trick. Something was wrong. There was something strange about what Shimayama was saying. And it was too late. And then I realized. The East and West were caught up in the middle of a world war. How could the Berlin Wall have fallen? And could Gorbachev really execute perestroika in this world line? By the time I realized he tricked me, it was too late. My panic appeared on my face.
君もそうだったのか。そしてそれを故意に隠そうとしたね。
Would you believe me if I told you that by trying to pry into our affairs, you will actually cause more damage than you would ever understand, Shimayama? You may believe that everything you're doing is for the greater good of your country and nation, but in reality, your dedication to your job may very well lead to the opposite
情報通り
direction.
なんだな。君は何か重大なことを知っている。
You're a shrewd man, good sir, and I tip my hat to you. Yeah.
なあ岡部君、教えてほしいんだが。
If we tell you, you have to sincerely promise to us, Shimoyama, that your government will not use time machine technology for its own nefarious ends, no matter what the cost. It was a bitter laugh, almost eerily
ゴ
so.
リバチョフ、レリツィン、君たちが口にするそれは一体誰なんだ。我々はもちろんアメリカのあらゆる情報機関にもそんな人物のデータは存在しないんだ。
Different world lines, of course. So neither of them actually existed in those world lines. I looked over at Yuki. That's no wonder. No wonder. It's very much the same phenomenon as John Titor or Suzuha Mane. Remember that in the Beta world line, everyone knew about John Titor. But when Rintaro shifted to the Alpha world line, he was surprised to find that there was very little information about John Titor until Suzuha made her reappearance as Titor in the Alpha world line. That was actually her first time as John Titor in the Alpha world line. So of course there wouldn't have been information, because there were two different world lines. From the look on her face, I could tell that she really had no idea who they were.
ペレストロイカだの、ベルリンの壁崩壊だの、それは本当にあったことなのか。答
I
え
see where you're going with this. But I couldn't answer. I was thinking of something completely different. I suddenly realized why the world line might have changed a month ago on Christmas Eve. What if Russia used the time machine that day in an experiment to change the past? Much in the same way as, for those of you who don't know about the game Command & Conquer Red Alert, a spin-off of the Command & Conquer series, Albert Einstein created a time machine to go back in time and remove the infamous dictator Adolf Hitler from history, thus preventing the rise of Nazi Germany, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, in Red Alert, Einstein's effects had a consequence. Without the rise of Nazi Germany, Joseph Stalin's Soviet Union basically was unchecked in all of Eastern Europe. And that led to the alternative World War IIs in the Red Alert spin-off series. The goal of the experiment would have been to prevent the collapse of the Soviet Union. And if the result of them changing the past was this world line, how foolish. A single change to the past and the butterfly effect makes the world so different. A part of chaos theory that says if a butterfly flaps its weapons in Beijing or Peking, either Beijing or Peking, a storm will occur in New York. Even a small change in starting conditions can lead to radically different results. Chaos theory states that it can be difficult to predict the outcomes of a system even if the equations describing it are extremely simple. But this does not mean, however, that these outcomes are random. It means that even a minor change in the process can cause an unexpected divergence in the results. Also, this theory does not apply to short-term predictions. The butterfly effect at work. Do they know how many people had
君や
died?
君の友達には本当に他の世界の歴史が見えているのか。私にはとても信じられない。頭のおかしい学者どものたわごとにしか。
Unfortunately, Shimayama, it's not nonsense at all. He was about to push me further when, but of course I'm going to have to stop here because this is the end of this episode of Let's Play Steins Gate 0. When we return, adventurers, we shall see what it is that has cut off Shimayama's line of questioning. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.